For decades, the alliance between the United States and Israel has been presented as a partnership born of shared values, democracy, freedom, and mutual security. Every president repeats the same phrases. Every press conference echoes the same promise, an unbreakable bond. But behind the polished speeches and photo ops lies a deeper machinery of power, an alliance not merely between two nations, but between overlapping interests that operate beyond the reach of public scrutiny. This is not a friendship of ideals, it is a network of influence built on money, lobbying, intelligence, and control. The relationship has become institutionalized, almost immune to political change. Presidents come and go, yet the policy remains untouched, as if written in something stronger than law profit. Israel receives billions in U.S. military aid every year, much of it cycling back into American defense corporations. Politicians call it support, but in reality, it's a closed economic loop disguised as diplomacy. Meanwhile, those who question the alliance find their careers quietly strangled, campaign funding dries up, media access vanishes, reputations crumble. Loyalty isn't just encouraged, it's enforced. The special relationship functions like a contract, one written not in ink, but in influence. The justification has shifted over time, from Cold War strategy to Middle Eastern stability to shared morality. Yet the result remains the same, unquestioning support, no matter the cost. The alliance extends beyond governments, merging the power of private donors, religious movements, and corporate interests into a single voice that speaks louder than any ballot. America and Israel are no longer bound simply by diplomacy, but by dependence, economic, political, ideological. It is an alliance without borders, invisible to the eye, but felt in every policy decision. And in the heart of Washington, the question remains unspoken: who is leading whom? In Washington, power doesn't flow from ballots or ideals, it flows from bank accounts. The donor class, a network of billionaires and political financiers, has become the true architect of U.S. foreign policy, especially when it comes to Israel. Their influence is not loud but absolute. Campaigns rise and fall at their discretion. Behind every smiling politician pledging support for the only democracy in the Middle East stands a wall of money that ensures those words never change. Figures like Sheldon Adelson, Haim Saban, and Miriam Adelson didn't just donate, they invested. Each $1 million check came with an expectation, a policy, a position. The candidates who accepted their backing understood the unspoken terms: unwavering loyalty to Israel's interests. Those who hesitated quickly vanished from the political stage, labeled unreliable or worse, anti-Israel. It's not bribery. It's a system so refined that compliance looks like conviction. The donor networks operate through super PACs, lobbying arms, and non-profit education centers that shape opinion and legislation long before it reaches the floor of Congress. Their money funds think tanks that write the policies, media outlets that justify them, and public figures who defend them. The result is a democracy where voters choose faces, but donors choose agendas. For the politicians, alignment with Israel isn't a moral stance, it's a career necessity. Every election season turns into a pilgrimage to fundraising dinners, where promises of security, cooperation, and strategic partnership are exchanged for checks that guarantee victory. The line between diplomacy and dependency has blurred beyond recognition. America's Middle East policy is no longer crafted in the State Department, it's drafted in boardrooms, over dinner tables, and inside the private jets of those who know that in politics, money doesn't just talk, it commands. Long before any vote is cast or policy announced, the real decisions are made in the quiet corridors of lobbying power. The U.S.-Israel alliance is not sustained by diplomacy alone. It is engineered by an intricate network of organizations whose influence reaches deep into every level of government, media, and academia. The most well-known of these is AIPAC, but it is only one part of a vast ecosystem. Surrounding it are think tanks, research institutions, and advocacy groups that work in seamless coordination to ensure America's unwavering alignment with Israeli interests. They don't just influence policy, they write it. Congressional bills are often drafted by lobby lawyers, handed directly to legislators who later present them as their own initiatives. Every conference, seminar, and briefing they host is designed to shape perception, to remind politicians that support for Israel is not optional, it's mandatory. Those who comply are rewarded with campaign backing, favorable media coverage, and a reputation for strength. Those who resist are quietly dismantled through targeted narratives, funding cuts, and public smears. Journalists who question Israeli actions are accused of bias. Academics who critique the relationship risk losing grants or tenure. The system polices itself. Meanwhile, public opinion is molded through op-eds, documentaries, and social media campaigns, funded by the same network. Even Hollywood and entertainment are leveraged to humanize Israel and sanitize its controversies. Behind every cultural story of shared values lies careful coordination. The lobby's strength is not in open coercion, but in normalization. It makes unquestioned support for Israel seem patriotic, moral, inevitable. Over time, this manufactured consensus becomes indistinguishable from truth. The American public sees unity. What they don't see is the machinery turning beneath it a system so efficient that it no longer needs to pressure anyone. It simply programs belief. When the United States moved its embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem in 2018, it was presented as a gesture of solidarity, a promise fulfilled, a bold stand for truth. But behind the official statements and the waving flags lay a deeper reality. The embassy move was not just about geography, it was about ideology. It marked the fusion of political ambition, religious prophecy, and billionaire influence into a single act of symbolism that reshaped global diplomacy. For decades, every president had avoided the move, knowing it would ignite tension across the Middle East. But Donald Trump's administration, backed by donors and advisors with deep ideological and financial ties to Israel, turned caution into theater. Figures like Sheldon Adelson poured millions into the campaign and celebrated the relocation as divine validation. Evangelical leaders called it the fulfillment of prophecy, proof that America was chosen to protect God's nation. The embassy became a political altar where diplomacy bowed to doctrine and faith replaced negotiation. The ceremony in Jerusalem looked like a celebration, but it also carried a warning. Neutrality was dead. By recognizing the city as Israel's undivided capital, Washington abandoned its role as a mediator and instead became a participant in a religious narrative. The building itself, modern and secure, became a monument not to peace but to power. Its existence declared ownership over land, over meaning, over truth. For millions watching, it was the beginning of a new era in which faith-driven politics would define international policy. What should have been a matter of strategy became a matter of scripture, and in that moment, the world saw that embassies are not just buildings, they are symbols, and symbols, when funded by belief and ambition, can move nations closer, not to peace, but to prophecy. In the heart of America's Bible Belt, the story of Israel is not foreign policy, it's prophecy. For millions of evangelical Christians, the modern state of Israel is not just an ally, it's the stage for the divine finale. Politicians have learned to speak this language fluently, weaving scripture into strategy and turning religious devotion into electoral power. The belief runs deep that the return of the Jews to their ancient homeland, the rebuilding of the temple, and the final battle of good versus evil are all part of God's plan. Support for Israel, therefore, becomes sacred duty. Pastors preach it from pulpits, televangelists broadcast it into homes, and congregations vote accordingly. It's a partnership built not on politics, but on revelation. Leaders like Mike Pence, Ted Cruz, and countless others invoke biblical destiny as justification for military aid and political loyalty. Every conflict in the Middle East is framed as a sign of the end times. Every peace negotiation as an obstacle to divine prophecy. The Israeli government understands this well. It cultivates ties with American evangelicals, welcoming pilgrimages, endorsing sermons, and reinforcing the belief that prophecy and policy are one and the same. This fusion of faith and geopolitics ensures unwavering American support because questioning Israel isn't seen as dissent, but as blasphemy. Evangelical donations pour into Israeli settlements, religious schools, and lobbying groups, cementing a bond that transcends rational diplomacy. The Bible has become a campaign tool, and every verse about Jerusalem is leveraged for political gain. Yet beneath the hymns of solidarity lies manipulation. The prophecy narrative is powerful because it promises salvation, but it's also profitable because it guarantees allegiance. In the evangelical equation, belief is the currency, prophecy the product, and policy the reward. Behind the emotional appeals and sacred promises lies the foundation that keeps the U.S.-Israel alliance unbreakable: weapons, intelligence, and profit. The relationship is not sustained by faith or diplomacy, it's sustained by contracts. Every year, billions of dollars in U.S. military aid flow to Israel, and much of it circles straight back into the pockets of American defense contractors. The cycle is seamless. Congress approves funding for Israel's security. Israel purchases fighter jets, missiles, and cyber systems from U.S. companies, and those same corporations lobby Congress for even more aid next year. It's an economic covenant disguised as strategic partnership. The two nations share intelligence, co-develop weapons like the Iron Dome, and test surveillance technologies in real-world conflicts. Gaza becomes a laboratory where drones, missile systems, and crowd-control tools are field-tested before being sold globally. The profits are astronomical. Lockheed Martin, Boeing, and Raytheon all benefit, while Israel's tech startups transform military innovations into commercial products exporting security solutions worldwide. The alliance ensures that war remains good business. Every escalation, every strike, every defensive operation feeds the same network of wealth and influence. Peace would collapse the market. Conflict sustains it. Politicians praise shared defense, but the real defense is of an economy built on fear. Intelligence agencies exchange not just information but methods: surveillance, cyber warfare, population control. The digital walls rising across the world all share Israeli fingerprints, from border tech in America to spyware used by global regimes. The covenant is unspoken but absolute. Israel provides battlefield innovation. America provides funding and protection. Both profit from perpetual instability. What began as military cooperation has evolved into dependency, as an industrial religion where the altar is a weapons deal and the prayer is for the next contract. In this covenant, peace is the only threat. Every empire needs a story to hide its machinery, and the U.S.-Israel relationship is no exception. On the surface, it appears as mutual trust, a democratic alliance in a volatile region, but beneath that veneer lies an invisible architecture of influence, an interlocking web of donors, lobbies, media networks, religious movements, and defense industries that ensure the policy never truly changes, no matter who occupies the White House. It is a system that renews itself every election cycle, immune to public debate or international criticism. The speeches change, the justifications evolve, but the direction remains the same: unconditional support. Presidents may speak of fairness and diplomacy, but behind closed doors, they are bound by agreements made long before their campaigns began. Policy drafts circulate through think tanks, funded by the same billionaires who finance political campaigns. Advisors rotate seamlessly between government posts and lobbying firms, their loyalties not to nations but to interests. The media reinforces the illusion, portraying the alliance as sacred and necessary, silencing questions through narratives of security and shared values. Even dissenting politicians are trapped within the system. Criticizing too loudly means losing funding, endorsements, or visibility. Over decades, this invisible hand has sculpted American foreign policy into a tool of predictability, where outcomes are preordained and moral arguments are irrelevant. The hand does not belong to one man, party, or ideology. It belongs to the system itself, one that thrives on dependency and fear. America believes it leads. In truth, it follows. The relationship that began as strategic has become structural, a self-perpetuating mechanism that no longer serves diplomacy but sustains control. And as wars continue and leaders change, the question lingers like a shadow across history. When policy serves power instead of people, who governs whom, the ally or the architect?